What's up, guys? Back down in the basement, still making videos. Burt Reynolds still hanging out with us up on top of the toolbox. A little shout out to ACT3. And can it focus? Not really. Shout out to ACT3. There we go. So, last video we talked about kind of how your front block works together, what all your pneumatics are doing, how to set those up between a slider and a hinge frame, what the difference makes, and what a 2 O-ring versus 3 O-ring three-way, what the difference makes there, and why some three-ways may be faster than others. So, right after we did that, during the video I talked about how it was very, very important to have the correct rod for your three-way, to make sure you had the right shaft in here. And this is a little project I put together a while ago. This is a 2K spec Spanky Cobra. I always really, really liked the way these looked. This is a project I put together a little while ago. Always loved the way that it came together. It's a beautiful gun, but it never really shot quite right. It had a really sloppy cycle to it. It wouldn't return smoothly, and I put this together at a time when a bunch of other stuff also came up. I was just really happy to get the project together, so I kind of shifted it off to the side and forgot about it until here recently. I decided to do some problem solving and figure out what the hell was going on. And sure enough, just like I said about how it's so important to have the correct three-way shaft, that's exactly what I did wrong in this gun. So I figured we'd take a second and look at not only what the differences are, but why it makes such a big difference. So I'm going to set some stuff up a little bit closer, grab my little bent up wire stand, and we'll take a look at what I found. Okay, guys, so these are the two rods we're going to deal with, and I want to show you kind of what the difference is and why that makes a difference. This, first of all, is the rod that I had in this Belsells Hollow Point three-way. Those of you who use these are already laughing, because this is not the correct one. This is the correct shaft for the Belsells three-way. Now, if you put the two side by side, it's not a massive difference. There's really not much of a difference as far as the O-ring spacing goes, but if I can get the camera to focus a little better, you can see there is a difference. So, we'll take a quick measurement. Old rusty crusty calipers here. So if we check, get it on there before I show you. If we checked essentially from each O-ring, from the inner side of each O-ring groove to the inner side of the other, if I can get the shit to stay in place, on this we're looking right at about 0.378, 378, okay, so 378 thousandths, whereas the spacing on the correct shaft, we're looking about 0.338, okay. Now obviously hands are a little off and my calipers are kind of old, but so we're looking only a difference of 40 thousandths. 40 thousandths has made this pretty little cocker sit on my wall for quite some time and not be used because it didn't cycle correctly. So I'm going to bring the marker back over it and we'll take a look at why that makes a difference. Okay, so we're zoomed up on the front block of that Spanky, and here we have the shaft that I was using in this three-way, and it shows just right off the bat what was causing this trouble. Like I said, the biggest thing was that it always was really sloppy on return, as a very sluggish return, and it, like I said, I just hadn't gotten the time to mess with it and take a look. But if we look at the spacing and when I cycle this, you'll see why this is such a problem. So our angle isn't quite as good as the last video, but you can kind of see, where my barbs are going on here in the back versus where my O-rings are sitting. So this is on a dyed double finger hinge frame. So obviously the shaft is going to be pushing forward whenever we're pulling the trigger. And if you look, even if I have this timed very tightly and we're sitting right on the cusp of that barb, when I push this forward, and we even get about halfway across where that barb would be sitting, as always, our air is coming in here in the center from that LPR. So my air is coming in, and where I have had air here in the back, holding the ram shut, holding the whole bolt assembly shut, as soon as we're up here, as you can see, I now have air trying to distribute a little bit to both sides of the ram. So we were on our way forward, so eventually this closes off and we'll go ahead and fully cycle. But when we try to come back, we run into the same problem. We have air trying to escape, but it's partially being vented towards the rear. So this is where the trouble was coming in. So if we swap to the other shaft real quick, and remember, all this was 40 thousandths difference between the two. But if we look, and we get this timed pretty closely here, okay, my camera doesn't focus very well. Ooh, focuses really badly. Well, apparently my camera is just giving up on us. There we go. So if we look at this, when I pull that trigger, and again, we're on a hinge frame, so it's coming forward, as we cross the line, my rear O-ring is already sealing off that back barb. Okay, so now we're distributing air to the front of the ram. And as this comes back, again, we cross, and we're sealing as we're distributing air to the front, or as we're distributing air to the other side of the ram, the rear. So again, the air is coming in here. We're pushing it to the back of the ram, holding everything closed. Pull the trigger, this goes forward, and as you can see, this rear O-ring is sealing across that barb port as the front O-ring is crossing across this barb port. So now our air is going up there. So literally 40 thousandths difference between these two little stupid shafts makes enough difference to cause this thing to shoot like absolute crap. So just that tiny little bit of difference can make a big difference. So even though it was shiny, it looked good in the three-way and everything, I thought, sure, maybe that's the correct one. No, it's not. So this is why it is important to know what you're working with. Make sure everything is good before it's going together. I should probably take a bit of my own advice here, but this is why it makes such a difference as far as having the correct parts working together. So, yes, I screwed up. So now, hopefully, I'm going to get this thing put back together, and she will be all ready to shoot, and then it's time to go get her dirty on the field a little bit. So, thanks, guys, once again. Figured I'd share one of my screw-ups, and maybe you guys can learn from it. So, as always, anything you want to talk about, anything you want to see me build, whatever the hell you guys want, just let me know.